When you are located at the plant, you have some level of control, but now here you have to work with people, try to pass on the knowledge and the training and pass on the motivation.
This is the Energy Manager's Playbook from Save on Energy, a podcast empowering Ontario energy managers to find success at work. I'm your host, Jay Mullen, and today we're talking with someone who started out as an energy manager in one facility and then transitioned into a corporate role, driving energy performance across a portfolio of plants. We've talked before about the challenges of implementing energy savings initiatives across large portfolios of buildings. Today, we're going to talk about what it's like to move from being a plant-level energy manager to a corporate one.
Some of the challenges that the sustainability champions are facing are similar to what I used to face when I was at the plant level.
Behzad Hossainpour is the Energy and Sustainability Manager at Maple Leaf Foods.
My name is Behzad Hossainpour. I am the Energy and Sustainability Manager working at Maple Leaf Foods at corporate level. At the moment, we have 3 mid to small size plants in the US, but the vast majority of the operations are in Canada, in Quebec, in Ontario, in Alberta, and in Manitoba, and also in Saskatchewan. Right now, the prepared food, which is basically comprised of the deli sliced meat operation and also a specialty meat. And also we have the poultry brand and the hatchery of the poultry.
I think many people haven't been in a facility like that before. Can you give us a sense of where energy is used in those types of facilities?
Basically, if the plant or the process requires cooking, that would involve natural gas consumption for cooking process, but we do still need certain amount of natural gas for heating of water to be used for sanitation. So there is electricity used for the refrigeration, there's natural gas used for heating of water, and sometimes there's steam. And of course, you need, compressed air to run the process. So these are like the basic significant energy users.
Okay. And you started at Maple Leaf as an energy manager in one of the plants. So when you're in the plant, what did you see as the biggest opportunities to save energy?
So I think the savings opportunity would lie in optimizing the system, because over time, the system drifts away from the original design and you always address the low-hanging fruits. And I think that's where the low-hanging fruits are located.
And when you were at that facility for Maple Leaf, did Maple Leaf have like plant level targets that you had to hit in terms of energy reduction or efficiency?
We didn't have a plant-specific target, but we had an overarching target for the entire manufacturing to achieve our intensity on electricity and natural gas and water and food loss waste and solid waste, basically landfill diversion, by 50% by 2025 from a 2014 baseline. And I was the only plant who was able to achieve that target. We also had an overarching our Scope 1, Scope 2, and Scope 3 emissions for the entire network. And being located in Ontario, our grid is not as carbon intense, so natural gas would be more priority over electricity.
Right. And what were some of those factors that contributed to your success at hitting those targets?
Some of it, I think it comes from, having the passion for the work and having that kind of expertise. I'm a certified energy manager. I'm also a CMVP, certified measurement and verification professional. Having those credentials helps a lot, in order to identify the savings opportunity. Also trying to prioritize the highest amount of payback and the low-hanging fruits first for just getting the biggest bang for the buck, basically. Building the relationship within the team at the plant, when you're delivering a success, it actually helps to build a stronger case. And next time when you're presenting a case, you have the buy-in and then you have the support once the result is presented. So it actually makes things easier to move forward with the next projects.
Finding those opportunities and building that team, like that sounds fairly intensive.
Yeah, but the leadership at the plant level, they were open-minded. They wanted to do this. Maybe having a dedicated person helped to organize it all and bring it under one umbrella. And once you start working on the projects and then you present the results and then you see the consumption goes down, then you actually have a higher level of support from the leadership.
Right. And since then, you've moved into a new role. Can you tell us a little bit about what your responsibilities are now?
I moved on from looking after one plant to a corporate role. So basically now I'm working with 21 operations across US and Canada, try to basically help them now to identify savings opportunity and organize and plotting charts for roadmaps in order to achieve their targets.
So, how is that different, helping a whole bunch of facilities achieve their targets compared to before, where you were focused on one facility and the operations within one facility?
When you're at the plant level, your team is your production and maintenance people and finance, so the people who are located at the plant. But when you're at the corporate level, your team is wider. There's like cross-functional from engineering department, food safety department, health and safety departments, and then you are dealing with also executive sponsors, C-suite people that you can actually build trust and also that relationship that could actually remove some of the barriers that the plants are facing. When you are located at the plant, you have some level of control, but now here you have to work with people, try to pass on the knowledge and the training and pass on the motivation basically for them to go and start, look for the opportunities and execute them. You have to work on the soft skills, from building up a team, building up a training program, building up, the knowledge, having a regular line of communications with them, doing the site visit, and take them for a walk and audit. And some of the challenge that the sustainability champions are facing are similar to what I used to face when I was at the plant level. So I start by sharing, my experience in how to encounter those challenges. So I provide some case studies from the work that I did before in the past and they were successful just to build up the trust and provide some level of support from my level at this point that this is a successful project. It's best in class. It has been done before at the other plants and this is a good project. So let's champion that.
And you mentioned that when you were working at the plant that there were corporate goals around sustainability and energy reduction, but you didn't have a specific plant goal. Do the plant managers and the individual plants now have their own targets?
Yes. So now we have sunsetted our 50% intensity reduction by 2025. But in light of not achieving those targets, we learned that it was not communicated properly because the plant did not know how much of that 50% is their shared responsibility. So what we have done this time around is now the plant, they have a specific mandate in order to march for. So they know, for instance, because the operations are different, a poultry plant is different from a prepared meat. So this time, the plants are taking a specific approach. So they will be compared against themselves, not against other plants that may be different in nature and operation.
Okay, so they have their own individual targets. How did those get set? Was that like a collaborative process with the plants or?
Yes, it was. So we sat down with every single plant in the network, try to present a ambitious but also achievable because these targets are smart. They have to be specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time bound because there's no point of setting them up for failure.
Could you give some examples of how, in your new role, you're trying to make it easier for people in the facilities to identify and implement these projects?
So there's a checklist they can refer to if they are purchasing any new asset. There are ways that they can look for more sustainable options, more energy efficient options. But also with the support of the leadership here, we are also implementing a process improvement checklist, which is basically talks about, where to look for savings opportunity based on what the equipment you have right now. But for instance, addressing the leaks that you have at the plant for compressed air system, fixing your steam trap, uninsulated pipes on the refrigeration system, make sure that the temperature set points are right. Over time, there is a lot of HVAC system that they drift away from the proper set point and they just keep burning. There is relative humidity sensor outside that sometimes it's just always reading 100%. That has to be checked as a low-hanging fruit that they can add values. So we have established a knowledge base that can be shared with the plant. I'm also working on building a training program to talk about all of that and following our ISO 50001 framework to be given to all the plants. So that would be something that is recorded and posted on a learning platform that we use internally. So even when you are having turnover of people, that could be used later on.
And then you mentioned the other thing was on that relationship side. How have you gone about trying to build that trust and relationship with all those different facility teams?
So I almost visited all the plants that we have in the network. I think being there in person, it makes a whole lot different than trying to communicate over Teams or Zooms. So when you are there in person, you take the time to explain the process and also going through that checklist together, and then walk the plant together, try to look for opportunities, identify some of them, and then say, let's focus on these four, prioritize those. And if you have any questions along the way, or if you need any support, from getting the buy-in from the top senior leadership, I'm happy to communicate that and advocate for your projects. I think when you work together, it builds the confidence and the commitment that it requires.
Do you remember any specific site visit or interaction that really stood out as helping to build that connection?
Yeah, recently I visited one of our plants in operation in Montreal, and they were having the same problem that when I was at the plant, I was having the same issue. It was about putting insulation on uninsulated pipes and fixing steam traps. So I knew the answer, I knew where to start. So I was able to recommend a vendor that could actually provide a solution to their problem and also provide a draft of the capital expenditure that I drafted a couple of years ago in order to achieve the same target. So it was easy for them basically to use that framework and just fill in the new numbers. So they basically not to reinventing the wheel from the work that was done. And it turned out to be a very successful project.
And what type of feedback have you heard from those different plant teams since you've started this new approach?
Well, thus far, the response I'm receiving from the plants are mostly positive. I think because it's more interactive, at least they know that there's a person they can reach out to. And every time I remain available, every time if they have any questions for me. And then we have a touch point on the ongoing projects, if they're still on track to achieve the target, if they're falling behind, what are the challenges are and the difficulties. Is there anything that we can take on, from corporate perspective to help them to navigate through the problems? Because there's a lot going on at the plant. And if you're not a dedicated person, typically means that you are doing a lot of other things and then doing this one at the same time, which might make it more complicated. So if there's anything I can take on from their plate, I would be happy to do that.
Giving them support, letting them know that you're there to help them, has that helped build buy-in from the facilities?
Absolutely, yes. So first off, I think I would say, me going to the plant is sending a signal that they are important, they're not forgotten. I even went to some plants that they say, we don't typically get a lot of visitors, coming out here and checking on us, how you're making out on your energy targets. So this whole thing is new, and when you're spending time going through the whole process, why are we doing this, why this is all important, not just on energy savings or greenhouse gas reduction, but also it helps them to save money. Then you also have the attention from finance. It could also have a lot of operational stability benefit that could help actually maintenance and reliability department, so the asset doesn't have to go down as often. So I think all in all is adding a lot of benefit to the plant. It just needs the time to be taken and explaining all of that aspect and the side benefits of that to the plant. I think once you do that and the process is open and then they see that actually it adds a lot of value, I think you have their support.
So as you're continuing to grow in this role, are there any new projects that you're excited about moving forward with Maple Leaf?
Right now, we are in the middle of undertaking a massive project, with respect to changing the entire boiler system. We are adding more heat recovery into that system. We are looking at adding condensing economizers, feed water economizer, which was not typically the common practice, but now it is. We are working on a project for deploying an energy management information system. So basically not only just the meters, but also having the analytical platform for trending and analysis, basically running the QSUM level and trending the plants performance over time with the real-time data with respect to see how they're performing. Sometimes because not having live meter would hinder your ability to see the grand scheme of things because your savings might be shadowed by an increase in consumption by other element in the plant. So this will be a pilot for us. And if the pilot is successful and it can actually guide us in the right direction that we can identify savings opportunity, we are looking into actually deploying it across multiple plants.
So if there was an energy manager who's fresh starting into that role of trying to influence other facilities, what's one piece of advice you'd give them to get started?
So the first action is get to know the people that you want to work with, trying to build that level of communications and also have that level of transparency with respect to what the ask is and what you want to achieve, and then how you can achieve it together.
What I really like about Behzad's story is how he leveraged his experience as a plant energy manager, his technical expertise, the work he had done identifying, evaluating, pitching, and implementing projects, and then incorporated that into a new approach with new skills. His background working at the plant level allowed him to empathize with the challenges his colleagues in other facilities felt and take an active role in supporting their success. Behzad's story illustrates how important it is for corporate energy managers to be there for those who actually implement energy solutions. And I mean be there in the literal sense. Traveling to plants who don't normally get hands-on support goes such a long way to making the workers and management feel supported in their efforts. Making people a part of the planning process, hearing them out when they express their concerns, and then positioning himself as someone who would advocate on their behalf and make their jobs easier. That's how you build enduring partnerships that span the organizational chart. Thanks so much to Behzad Hosenpur of Maple Leaf Foods. That's it for this episode. As always, I'd love to hear about what challenges and victories you've faced in your energy management career. You can email me, just find the address in the show notes to this episode, and while you're there, tap the link to the Save on Energy website. There, you can learn more on how to improve your energy management practices. I'm Jay Mullen, and this has been the Energy Manager's Playbook, a podcast from Save on Energy.